All right, I just wanted to let you know that once I started to finish the paper that I wrote yesterday, added some additional things to the book, some small details. But once I started getting to the end of the paper, then what happened was that all of a sudden this feeling came to me just out of nowhere. See, I asked him, I was like, I want to drink some more caffeine. Like, I drank this Celsius drink from down the street, and it was just getting me so, like, pumped. You know what I mean? And I was already in the middle of all this, stuff and thinking, higher level thinking. It was just taking me through this whole thing. And I was like, this feels inappropriate, but I feel like I need more caffeine. They told me, they were like, yeah, go. So I went and got more caffeine. And then once I had so much caffeine in me, then I, it's just getting my mind all worked up. You know what I mean? And getting my brain to where it functions at an even higher level. So I'm even more focused on something. So I can't even think about what's the reality of what you're saying right now, or what's the reality of what you're making me feel right now. You know what I mean? That's just the way that works. And so they were putting these thoughts in my head like, well, now you put a target on her back because she's supposed to be Jesus Christ. You're telling everybody she's not Jesus Christ. You're going to end up getting her screwed in life. And so and then as I sat down, there was something that they had told me. They're just repeating these things over and over again. And there was something that they told me that said, it fed into the story, like the narrative that I was constructing of, well, this is really what's going on, And then I was like, well, I got to write these two things. There's two things. And as I was writing them down, I saw in my mind's eye this kind of like an image of her, and it was like, you're really keeping up with things. You know what I mean? This helps me in life. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. And then I wrote one down and I already had forgot the other, And I've caught them doing this before where they'll make me forget something that they don't need me to say it, and I'll remember it. I'll remember it and I'll be like, well, okay, I don't need to say that or something. I don't remember what it was. It's been so long. I just know that they can do that. But either way, the whole point of the story is that as soon as that was done, that started to happen right as I was putting the phone away and everything, because I always put my phone in Faraday, keep it in the garage, put all my electronics in Faraday. Everything with a microphone on it is in the garage, and pretty much just stays out there. And so, because people keep stalking me and then they throw it in my face, you know what I mean? And they're deranged at this point, and they I don't know how I feel about that yet, but I can't just put my phone in the Faraday. They can't deal with it. So, but anyways, and it feels, maybe they're deranged, maybe they're just crazy enough to try to intimidate me like that. I have no idea. But I'll get down to the bottom of that. But either way, the point of the story is that, so I was already starting to put my phone in Faraday, and as I was putting my phone in Faraday, then all this was happening. Well, forgetting something that I felt like might help. See, they put the apprehension in me. They got my mind so focused up, and then had said something to me a number of times that wouldn't just allow me to immediately recall it like that. I could forget it very easily. Probably even just remembering it was something. Probably that image in my mind's eye was, at least that much was for sure, them hyping it. Oh yeah, you're watching out for her. You know what I mean? By remembering that. And so that right there was just something that, so as soon as I put so anyways, the point of the story is just, as soon as I put the phone in Faraday, then they started to repeat themselves over and over again. I don't need it. I don't need them to have that. And it was I don't need those steps. I don't need those steps. And then it was things like, well, what's going to happen to her now, Tanner? And before I had put the phone up, it was this notion that came into me of, well, you deserve to be around your phone. You don't need to just try to stay away from that, because you got all kinds of cool stuff on there. Tanner, you're Jesus, and you should be able to do that, So I don't want you to worry about that. It's just a feeling, And there was this feeling of, I don't need those steps because I gotta step into the garage to get the phone. And then there's blind spot detector that can see my feet. You know what I mean? So they're gonna pick up on something is basically what they're insinuating, And here's one of the things that's going on. The new Constitution is they're going to want to do revenge on the police before we give them the new Constitution. You know what I mean? Because, and this is something they mentioned to me before, it was only work on the new Constitution on the Samsung phones, so the Americans can't, because they got back doors in that, they can't just then say that, but easy to understand why, but ChatGPT, do ChatGPT to work on it, and then I asked him, I said, nah, there's not a Japanese AI like ChatGPT, is there? Because it said no, And so the whole thing is just to keep it as insulated as possible, And that is, there's so many different aspects to it. The biggest thing, they could have just told me that, but the biggest thing is that they need me to be assaulted because it reactivates that thing that first got the military going on nuclear weapons and stuff. And it reminds them, see the position he's in? Then that means you're going to have power. You know what I mean? And then that gets, because they need a military takeover, And so that's probably the biggest aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, we need you to stay away from that. That's for sure the biggest aspect of it, just so you know. And that's kind of like goes towards, you can tell somebody that you're faking weakness to get them arrogant, and they'll still buy into whatever you said because it's, I want to believe it. Okay. And so, but the point of the story is just, so that's to get them excited. I don't know if you want to call it arrogant or not, but kind of. And so, but the point of the story is just, it could have been, a little bit of, I need you to get away from your phone right now, because you just exposed something, you know what I mean? And they've acted like this before, you just exposed something, so I need you to get away from your phone. But they don't need to assault me to get that done, They don't, especially psychologically. If they wanted to come in here and physically just push me away from the phone, memory wipe me and don't even let me just remember something else. They could do anything, you know what I mean? They come in here as a ball of light and just blow my mind and be like, Tanner, you can't do it. Okay, we need to get you away from that phone. And don't talk about it, Because by acting like this, I'm always going to do that. You know what I mean? So, personally, don't believe that's the case. Could be the case, but I just don't believe it. And really that's just not how you endear yourself to people to get them to do certain things. You know what I mean? That's just, I've already had it in my mind, like, you probably wouldn't want them to know that. I don't think that, just the notion of it, like, being so explained to you something, that you go, that's not going to work on me if you explain it, And then my thinking just being, I'm just not going to tell them, you know what I mean? And it just doesn't make any sense and didn't really even think about it, you know what I mean? That's more in me than anything. They don't have to act like that. So, but anyways, however you want to interpret that. But the thing about it is just a lot of, this person, this person's totally obsessed, you know what I mean? And this is like, they're a psycho. You feel it, you know what I mean? Like, making me feel it, you know what I mean? Like, just sometimes you run into people, I've run into people before that are totally deranged, you know what I mean? And when you run into somebody who's totally deranged, they've been infected by something, you know what I mean? Like, something about maybe the confusing nature of what I'm going through, on top of the violence, on top of somebody emerging from the violence, because I've already explained this as a psychological trigger that causes people to become violent in and of itself. But that's just, or just, somebody's seen somebody smart or having something interesting to say. I've sat across from people as I realized something. It's just a nice person, So all of a sudden they just bare their teeth at you, You know, it's like this psycho. And that's just, and they're doing it to me right now, God. Ugh. Just the feeling of what that feels like. What that feels like, you know? To come into contact with somebody who's totally fucking crazy. You know what I mean? And it's some people get activated by it. You know what I mean? And just to see somebody have a full-blown meltdown like that is it's not what you would think. You know what I mean? You see the rage in the back of their eyes. You know what I mean? They're so dangerous in that moment. They're so driven. You know what I mean? There's something pain inside of them. You know what I mean? Where it's there's something inside. You know what I mean? I can't quite put words into it. But once they get to that point of, total insanity, to where it's, just the blinding nature of it, They're making me feel that all the time. You know what I mean? They're making me feel there's deranged people out there. You know what I mean? I think a lot of that has to do with, they need me totally paranoid, totally enraged. You know what I mean? I think by the time they're done with me, they're going to have me up there just killing people for the craziest shit. The pettiest shit. You know what I mean? Just to, and there's historical reason to believe that this kind of thing actually works, but things like, oh, you needed to be on my phone? Like you're lost? Here, let me help you out. You know what I'm saying? Life was a little too hard for you. I'm going to put a bullet in your head. And then it'll be much easier for you after that. Be much easier for all of us. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't have to, it's like putting down a dog. It's sick and it would cost too much to fix it. It's, you know what I mean? It's just a piece of shit to throw away. You know what I mean? That thought. You know what I mean? But more like, well, I see what you are. I'm just going to deal with this. You know what I mean? Or just, you know what I mean? I don't think it's to the point of paranoid thoughts to the point of like doing something tyrannical, because that's not the way they're going about it. It's, oh, you got a problem? You see what I'm saying? Oh, you got a problem? You can't just get off my phone? You got an issue? You see what I'm saying? You can't just deal with life no more, huh? You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. This is a problem I don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? I'm going to have you killed and be done with it. And then that's just going to be basically having reduced humanity to nothing. You know what I mean? In my mind. And that's why they spent so much time talking about people calling them ants. It was crazy what they did. So crazy. I need to put that in the fucking book, actually. I'm going to have to write that down. But the story is just, but there was so much, ants don't like it. Ants don't like it. Ants. Reducing humanity to nothing. I can be honest with you, man. The way that they're going about this stuff, it seems more, based on what I know about, white people, how we evolved and what they're tapping into. They're going to blow it. This is what I think. They're going to blow everybody's fucking minds with the craziest shit. We all think we're keeping up with it. And then by the time they're done, all it is just, watch this. And then it's basically just me up there killing people to a large extent. You know what I mean? And then we're all just going, holy shit. And it's kind of cool, And just the way we think, and then it's going to be like everything that was needed, but only magnified to a new level, because it wasn't just about, it wasn't just about doing what was necessary to achieve a geopolitical strategy. It was about giving you a new religion, a new God. You know what I mean? A new concept of God, a new God, me. You know what I mean? But just the way that, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just, I would almost call that a new God, because it's just the reframing of it is so heavy that it's just. But I don't want to think into it too much. You know what I'm saying, right? It's just, you know, it's God in a way. You know what I mean? It's absolute power. It's something to be worshipped. You know what I mean? It's something that holds your attention for a long period of time. It's something that you go to church every Sunday and worship. It's something that, you know, you put 10% of your money, you give it to the church. You know what I mean? It's holds society together for maybe thousands of years. You know, it's way more than just securing the new Constitution. You know, so personally, I do believe it. I think it's going to be. It's going to be, well, you're not going to be able to defend yourself against this, and just, you know, take a seat and get ready, because this motherfucker is going to be so crazy by the time he gets up there that you aren't going to be able to do anything about that. He's not going to be able to do anything about that. This is my nature. I'm God. You know what I mean? Look at me. I'm your God. I can do anything. You know what I mean? I can make the planet stop turning. You know what I mean? I can make the sun go black. You know what I mean? You know, look at me, I'm your God. You know what I mean? You just go crazy thinking about that almost. Not go crazy, but you know, it gets something going inside your head. And so all I'm saying is just, yeah, that's what I believe. I believe that at the end of the day, it's what's necessary, but maybe not as much. I think it's just, look at what I'm capable of. Look at this. You know what I mean? And then say, you couldn't even figure that out. Give you like 50 papers and be like, look at this. This is what I was up to. And then just be like, says none of it. You know what I mean? It was me. I did it. You know what I mean? The whole time. You know what I mean? It's just at that point, it's just throwing them all away and being like, boom, then put a gun to your head and be like, boom. You know what I mean? Just that, you know, something like that. It's you know, so anyways, just, I think I've pretty much gone over all of it, but it's definitely not, as simple as get away from your phone, or, I don't know. It's definitely not as simple as you were just in trouble, or because you just exposed a bunch of stuff. I don't think that. It's, God, it's so annoying. But it could have something to do, and I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but it could have something to do with keeping things under wraps until the new Constitution comes out. But I think people are going to figure that out anyways, how that works. So anyways, and part of the thing is what they're doing is so multifaceted that it's hard to even determine exactly what they're doing. So that's what I'm saying. Anyways,